So here's the door that we're going to be doing a quick inspection on. This is a swinging fire door with builder's hardware. What that means is that all of the components are listed separately and they're assembled on site. So the actual fire exit hardware, the hinges, the door, the frame, it's all listed separately and assembled on site. That's all covered by NFPA 80 as far as the inspection requirements. So what are we going to be looking at? First, we're going to be inspecting the door from both sides. Most of the things I'm just going to show you from this side, but keep in mind that we're going to be doing it from both sides. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the labels and make sure that they are legible. So a lot of the labels you're going to see on the inside of the door. Here's an example of a label that's been painted, but it is still visible because it's embossed. I can still read that this is an hour-and-a-half listed fire door, and we want to take a look. We see also the listing of the frame itself, and we see here we've got a listing here for the fire exit hardware itself. So you're going to look at all of that. Make sure it's compliant. The one question we get a lot is, are they just not allowed to be painted as far as the labels? Technically, they just need to be visible. So if they are painted and embossed and you can still read it, that is okay. But if they're flat and painted and you can't read them anymore, that's not compliant. Next thing we're going to be looking for is any damage to the doors or the frame. So we don't see any damage. If we had holes, the holes can be filled with metal screws. So we would look at that. Next, we're going to check the glazing. The glazing is intact, not damaged. It's being held in. It's not loose. That's all fine. We're going to check for auxiliary hardware that's installed on the door that could impede that door closing. I think one of the biggest things we're looking for is making sure there's no door chocks or anything installed on the door or any door chocks around the door. We don't want that door being propped open. We need the door to be able to be self-closing and self-latching, so we're looking for that. If there's any gasketing required on the door, this door is not required to have any gasketing, but some doors might actually be required to have some sort of gasketing if they're a smoke-proof door or as part of the listing of the door. So if it's there, check to see that it's damaged. It needs to be there if it's required. Next, we're going to look, are there any modification to this door that could void the listing? One of the things that we could look for is electronic locking. Is that potentially going to void the listing of the door? We're going to check how that's installed, making sure that any modifications done to install that is done in a way that won't void the listing of the door itself. Now, NFPA 80 does allow some specific job site preparations, whether that's putting holes in the door for surface applied hardware or doing door undercuts. All of those, check NFPA 80 to see if the job site preparation is all permitted. And then next, we're going to check that the door closes and latches. Now, the best way to do that, we're going to open it, and we're going to simply let that door close, and we're going to confirm that it latches. Now, one thing we notice with this door is it is not completely latching. So that is something that we are going to need to take a look at. That door does not completely close and latch. And we do that from every open position. Now, let's see if it changes at all when it's fully open. Nope, that door is not self-closing and self-latching. So that is something that we're going to have to get repaired by a qualified person. And then the last thing that we're going to look at, we're going to actually go on the pull side of the door. And again, we want to check damage on this door as well. We want to check the door clearances. So I don't have the specific tool with me to check, but it's a tool that you would put in here to check to make sure that the door clearances aren't too much or too little. So for a hollow metal door, NFPA 80 says we want it between 1/8 of an inch plus or minus 1/16 of an inch between the door and the frame. So we'd be measuring that. And then the door undercuts, we want to be no more than 3/4 of an inch between the floor and the bottom of that door. And then the last thing we want to be paying attention to is signage. If we've got combustible signage, we can't be more than 5% of the side of the door, so on either side. If we're painted onto the door, that is acceptable. And we want to make sure that that signage, the best practice is attach signage with adhesive. There are some allowances to use metal screws, but again, check NFPA 80 to make sure that you're complying with those requirements. Best bet, non-combustible signage, and to be attaching it with adhesive. If you have combustible signage, no more than 5%. There are some limitations, 200 square feet, I believe, if you're doing metal signage. So pay attention to all that. Signage is very important on a fire door. We don't want to be putting a combustible load on that door. So this is an example of some things that you're going to look at when doing an inspection on a fire door. There's plenty of other things to require. This is certainly just one way you could do it, not the required way. These are just some of the items to be looking at. And as always, don't forget,